The DER Registry is a purpose-built, secure, national-scale platform for residential DER information. Other videos will cover the important fundamental concepts of the registry and introduce it from that angle. In this video, we'll see the registry in action in detail. We'll do an end-to-end example starting with a homeowner adding their house to the registry, and then see an aggregator get it enrolled all the way into an ISO market product. The DER Registry has a web portal that is specially built for homeowners. So homeowners can come and either sign up with us directly or just sign in with an existing personal account like Microsoft, Google, Apple, Facebook, and get going. They're not a business. They're just coming here to get their house enrolled in the registry, so try to make it easy on them. They get signed in, and of course, the first thing that we let them know is, welcome, and do you want to add your house? And the answer is, of course, yes, I would like to add my site to the DER registry. Maybe I'm trying to get an interconnection agreement with the utility. For the purpose of the demo, my name is, of course, Jane Smith, and I live in Naperville, Illinois. I'm putting in my service address here because a big point of the DER registry is that a lot of people are wanting to know where these DERs are on the grid, both physically and electrically. Now, once I save and continue, another key component that I'll be asked is who my distribution utility is. And that happens to be Bright Peak Energy. And when I put in my account number here, in the background, the utility is going to be notified, and they will look at my address, they'll look at my account number, and make sure that it looks right. Now, I am having to sign off that I am who I say I am, and I'm qualified to do this, but there is a check and balance. Now, if I'm working with an agent like an installer, or if I've got an aggregator, I have the option to specify that now. We don't have to, and in fact, we'll see that in a future step. In the future, the registry will support auto configuration through partners such as SolarApp Plus and PowerClerk. Once I accept my local data privacy terms and conditions, I save and continue, and success. It is now time for me to start telling the DER registry what DERs are at my house. So we'll continue, and we'll see a little placeholder from my site that's telling me owner action required. I know that I need to do something. So let's look at this record. Go here, and it's telling us that, among other things, hey, we haven't defined any DERs. But let's see what else is here. I see all the stuff that I've put in about, hey, there's my distribution utility and my account number and other organizations who I've assigned. Let's look at this. In fact, remember when we saw that we could specify an aggregator earlier if we're working with one? Well, let's do that now while we're here. I'm working with aggregators, so I'm going to save that, and here it is. They're assigned. That's great. In fact, the registry is designed for information to arrive piecemeal like this. Scrolling on down, here's a section about our DERs at the house, and of course, there are none. Let's work on that. I'll start by adding my solar panels. Now, solar panels are just one type of DER that the registry wants to know about. Important things like inverters, electric vehicles, and home batteries are also key to the registry. So I'll pick out solar panel set here, and I can do things like give it a nickname so I remember which these panels are. This happens to be on my pool cabana, and I'll key in the brand and specific model of my panels. The DER registry maintains a database of known equipment, including all sorts of specifications about it, because there are a lot of people, depending on the registry, who are going to want that information. Finally, we will specify how many of these solar panels I've got, and with that, I will be able to hit save and see the effect of adding my solar panels. Here it is. Here's that information that I just put in, captured into the registry, and now we can double check and just make sure, yep, it's all there, all the stuff that I just entered. That's fantastic. And in the background, the registry has been busy. Entering my street address earlier kicked off some background work with our partner Esri to resolve the geo coordinates and this nifty map thumbnail. Well, all of this has been going on as the record's been evolving with me entering information and even the system doing things like grabbing that map thumbnail. The entire change history is here and it's preserved. Every single thing, everyone who added it, is known, and we have complete transparency going back to the very beginning, showing us exactly where each little piece of information came from. And now the registry is telling me that as a homeowner, my work is done for now. No action is required. So I am going to take off my homeowner cap and put on my distribution utility cap. We'll log into the registry and see what the distribution utility will see. All right, so we, thanks to my colleague Emily, are logged in on behalf of Bright Peak Energy. We can see that Bright Peak Energy is a distribution utility, and they are a full member of Collaborative Utility Solutions. As a side note, because Emily is an administrator for this organization, she has the ability to add, manage, and remove users for her organization. Now the registry is showing me very clearly that there are some required actions, such as site verification and site data entry. Let's start with verification. That takes us to the list of unverified sites. Sites like the one Jane Smith just added to the registry. So of course we can see all of that information here that we're allowed to see. We can accept or reject this thing on a bespoke basis, but maybe I just want to do this in bulk. I see the account numbers, the addresses, and I can make my decision. Now, before we forget, we are going to verify Jane Smith's site so that we can keep using that in our example here. Okay, so now, of course, Jane Smith's site is no longer among the unverified, but if one of these didn't look right and we wanted to reject it, there are some stock reasons like the account number or address or name not matching. But after I reject a site, it doesn't just disappear. It kind of gets quarantined over into this list of rejected sites. I can see why I rejected it, and at this point, it's up to the homeowner to provide correct information that can be re-verified. Okay, so let's look at the other required action that the registry is prompting us for, site data entry. If we go there, we do have a list of sites that need data from us. Jane Smith's is right there. We are being told some very specific things. For example, DSO data is required and that we need a couple of documents, like the interconnection agreement. Anytime a record is updated, the registry is constantly reevaluating things for completeness and validity and figuring out who needs to be taking action. A minute ago, before this site was verified, the registry knew that nothing else really mattered. It knew not to bug me for interconnection agreement and everything because the relevant thing at that point was getting it verified. Well, now it is verified, and the registry is smart enough to know that the distribution utility is the next link in this chain. So we've got these required actions. All right. Now it's time to provide a whole bunch of information about where this site is electrically on the grid. This is a lot of information, and maybe I don't have quite all of it on hand, or maybe some of it is coming from a different source. The registry is built to integrate with other systems that might be providing this kind of information. And the registry is absolutely happy for this information to come in at different times. All right, now that that's in, if we happen to know about the meter that's out at the site, let's say we have that information on hand, put that in, and if we have documentations like the interconnection agreement and or the proof of insurance, we can upload those now. Again, maybe we don't have those, that's totally fine. The registry would notice and prompt us. Okay, so we got both of those documents, and that should just about do it. We'll click Save, and if we go back and take another look at that list of sites requiring data entry, hey, Jane Smith's site is good to go. We've done our part for now. Just like before, when the site moved off of one list, it's not like it is gone. In fact, I've got my list of all of my sites and can see what status they're in. So for Jane Smith's site, if I look at the status, it's telling me that aggregator approval is required. In a minute, we'll see the aggregator log into the DER registry and pick up where we, the distribution utility, left off with this site. Tables of information are great, But before we hand things off to the aggregator, I would like to point out a nifty feature that the registry has up its sleeve. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, maybe a map is worth 1,000 rows. In any case, Collaborative Utility Solutions is partnered with Esri, makers of the ArcGIS platform, with which the registry shares a native integration. So all of these sites that I, as the distribution utility, have in the registry are in real time being mirrored to my very own ArcGIS map with all of the information that I am allowed to see about the site, in other words, preserving the security model, and making sure that this information is available in an extremely powerful platform like Esri ArcGIS that my organization already relies on.
We've now switched over to the role of aggregator. As with any role in the registry, the aggregator has a home screen that shows organization information as well as action items that need to be addressed. Here we've got 3 sites that need to be reviewed and approved by an aggregator. At the top, we see our newest site belonging to Jane Smith. Keep in mind that the aggregator won't see the site and its permissible fields until it's been assigned to them. I can only see sites where I'm their aggregator. Sites that need my approval will show up here. Now, for this site, we have the choice to reject it if things don't look quite right, and we are required to provide a reason for the rejection. But let's go ahead and assume that Jane Smith's information checks out, and we will approve this site. On refresh, we can see that Jane Smith is no longer in the sites requiring data list, but we can still see that site when we go to all sites, and now the status is showing us that aggregator data is required. Now we move on to data entry. My home screen alerts me that there are sites requiring my attention. These are the sites requiring data from an aggregator, specifically me. When I click on Jane Smith's site, I can see the fields that are missing, and I'll go ahead and fill them out accordingly. Again, there are guardrails for the data we can see and edit based on our user role and permissions. I'll go ahead and speed this up so we don't have to watch every single field being filled out. We're being asked for this information because this is an aggregated site, which might participate in utility programs or market products. In fact, we'll see that process in a bit. This is why the registry needs to know what the site can contribute to an aggregation, and I, as the aggregator, am the one who specifies that. Once all the missing data is provided, we can save the site, and upon refreshing our list, it looks like the site belonging to Jane Smith no longer requires data from me. Now that we're done filling out data for Jane Smith, we can still see her site if we go to All Sites. Keep in mind that All Sites refers to all of my sites, and I have permission to see them because these are my customers. The status column tells us that this site is now ready for utility program enrollment, but it is not yet ready for market product enrollment because ISO data is still required.
Right on cue, here we are logged in as Creation Energy ISO. Just like we've seen before, the registry is telling me what my organization needs to be contributing. Here, we see in the required actions that I owe some site data. Sure enough, among those sites is Jane Smith's house. Looking at this, I see that the registry needs to know my ID for the meter and where I consider this to be on the grid so that it can participate in the right market products. Notice that there are parts of this record that I, as an ISO, don't get to see. I don't get to see the proof of insurance, that's not relevant to me, and I also don't get to see the specifics of the DERs because in this jurisdiction, that's what the regulatory authority decided. Okay, so we'll hit save, and just like before, when we refresh the list, I see that my work here as an ISO is done on Jane Smith's site, and now the aggregator can do their job of having this site participate in market products and utility programs.
We've now gotten a site into the registry and ready for aggregation into a market product. First, we're going to have to make a new aggregation. By navigating to Create New Aggregation, we can make a new aggregation where we provide a name and a description for that aggregation. All right, now that we have created that aggregation, we have the option to enroll now or later. Let's click Now. Here we are going to assign a DSO and an ISO respectively. We'd like to enroll in a market product, so let's select that. And these are the active products that the ISO has made available in the registry. We know that product 1 doesn't begin until September 1st, but the registry allows us to get this enrolled now so that when the date hits, we are all ready to go. This program happens to run in 4-month increments, so this will cover the first increment. These are the sites that are eligible for this enrollment. Let's select several, including the site we've been working on, Jane Smith. Now we have a chance to review the selections we've made thus far. And based on the capacity at the selected sites, let's commit to 28 kilowatts. Finally, we have another chance to review, and every product and program will have their own terms and conditions that need to be accepted. Success! Our enrollment has been created, and we're given the option to submit it for approval now or later. We'll choose Submit Later. This option gives us the opportunity to submit an enrollment in the future if, for example, we want multiple pairs of eyes on it before submitting it into the approval process. We can see our new enrollment has a status of awaiting aggregator submittal. On our home page, we see a new notification telling us we have some enrollments to deal with. When we click on it, we can see all of our enrollments and their various statuses. Alternately, we can navigate to the Manage Aggregations page where we can see the aggregation that we just created, and within that aggregation, our new enrollment. When we click on this enrollment, we can see the enrollment details and are notified that action is required. The enrollment has not yet been submitted. Within this page, we can look through the enrollment overview, the enrolled sites, where we can see our favorite Jane Smith, and we'll dive into the enrollment history and status later on. At a glance, this all looks good, so we'll go ahead and submit the enrollment into the approval process. The action notification disappears, and now if we go back to aggregation details, our enrollment status has changed to pending DSO approval. So now the enrollment is in the hands of the DSO.
And once again, here we are, back with Bright Peak Energy, the distribution utility. We have a new required action, aggregation approval. There it is. The aggregation that we know Aggregators was just working on, sure enough, it's here. We have to approve it. So we can see all of the basics. We can also take a look through and see what sites they're trying to enroll. And if we want to see details of those sites, we can. And of course, there is a full history log. Just like all of the main concepts in the DER registry, enrollments tell us exactly where each little piece of information came from. Finally, we have an entire section dedicated to the status of this enrollment, showing us exactly the progression through the process in this jurisdiction. For this jurisdiction, it looks pretty simple. I, the DSO, am having to approve this, and then it looks like after that it'll go right to the ISO. This can change depending on the jurisdiction. Alright, so I'm looking at this. If I don't like it, for whatever reason, I can reject it or even conditionally approve it, but this looks good to me, so we will go ahead and approve. That looks like it takes care of our to-dos as far as aggregation approvals. Now, if we look at all of the aggregations, we do have an example here of another one that was rejected, one that's fully approved, and then the one that we were just working on that is now in the hands of the ISO for their approval. So, right on cue, here we are logged in as the Creation Energy ISO. Sure enough, we have a new required action for aggregation approval. And there's that same aggregation that we've been working on. All the same stuff applies. I get to see the status, which shows me as the last step before this goes across the finish line. So I, again, look through the history log and the enrolled sites and everything, and this looks good to me, so I will approve. So now, over in all of my aggregations as this ISO, here's the aggregation enrollment. It is fully approved, and we have gone end to end, showing a site getting added to the DER registry, and then being aggregated and enrolled into a market product. The data is kept secure. We know rules are being followed. Sites aren't being double counted. Data privacy policies are being enforced. And now, industry collectively has the collaborative platform that we need in order to make sense of all the DERs out there in our world on our power grid.